Hello everyone and welcome to this new video. Today we're gonna be working on 3D. Finally, after the big announcement from yesterday, it's time that we start working on some 3D. So today I want to start a new series and we're gonna shift things a little bit. We did a very cool character last year. We did the Fogling, which by the way, the contest is now open. I announced the contest this past Monday. We're gonna talk about this a little bit more on Saturday. I'm gonna give you more guidelines. I'm gonna give you a little bit of my thought process or inspiration process on how you can start creating your own little character. But now we're going to jump into environments. We've been having some very cool environment classes as well, and I've been brushing my my skill set as well there, so I'm going to put a little bit of that into practice. And yeah, let me show you what we're going to be doing. I've always been fascinated by the sort of architecture and aesthetics that the Japanese have in their subways. Here in Mexico, we do have subways as well, and they are quite interesting as well, but they're not as clean. There's way more people usually, and I've always found this sort of again, organization and stuff, really cool. Also, they have some very moody and interesting effects. And curiously, one of my friends in Facebook from my days at Noman, he went to Japan recently and he took a couple of pictures and he posted this one. Let me show you. There's no one on the picture, so I don't think there should be any issue here, but there we go. So it's this entrance to, I'm not sure if this is the entrance to a specific subway station or something, but just the entrance itself looks really nice. I think this is an excellent exercise and an excellent thing that we can do as an environment. And I'm gonna be doing this inside of Maya. We're gonna be doing this for production. I'm thinking about having some sort of mythical Japanese spirit there on the center, because if you remove the people, it kind of looks a little bit spooky, right? So let me know in the comments if we should do that, if we should add some sort of character or creature or something here on the center, or if we should only focus on the environment. But today I'm gonna start by explaining how to set up the scene and how to just start blocking in some of the elements that we have right here. But before we do that, I just want to remind you guys that we have a really cool promotion. We announced it yesterday, and if you want to learn all of the things that we're gonna be talking throughout this video, this is the perfect chance. Hey guys, we have some great news for you. We know how important it is to prepare yourself and keep learning amazing skills to improve your portfolio, and that is why we're offering a super epic bundle of our best 50 courses for you. This epic bundle is available through ArtStation. It contains all of the videos and project files for our top 50 courses. We have modeling, sculpting, rendering, rigging, animation, Maya, characters, creatures, props, Substance Painter, ZBrush, Unreal Engine. All of the topics that we've been covering in the past years are going to be there. Our top 50 courses are going to be included in this bundle. This bundle is at a super price with an amazing 80% discount, and we will have this bundle available throughout January. So, if you are wanting, or you want to have some very nice New Year resolutions, if you want to increase your 3D levels and you want to become a master at the 3D art, then this is your opportunity. Make sure to check the link down below. There we go. So as you can see, this is, I would say, a fairly simple and achievable project. I'm always trying to make these new projects as achievable and as doable as possible sometimes. And I think that's one of the main mistakes that people make when they're trying to learn 3D. They would pick a project such as this one. And if someone tell me, hey, I'm going to be doing this for my environment class, which is one of the classes I teach over here, I'll be like, it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff. You have to do the machines, you have to do the pillars, you have to do the lights, you have to do the texturing, the light. It's way too much work. I would always recommend people select things that are in line with the amount of time that they have available. So if we want to do this in 5, 6, 7 days, maybe a week, this might not be doable in a week with the quality that we want, right? But something like this, it's definitely doable. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just give a quick check of how many things we need to do. I'm not going to be doing the background right there. We need to do this metal beams. We need to do the walls, the lights, the ceiling. Of course, this is like a big wall as well. The floors, this plastic thingies, maybe the light right here. And that's pretty much it. This is just a street and the sidewalk. Maybe this is like a lamp post or something. So there's not a lot of objects, and that's important because this will allow us to focus on the other parts of the thing, such as lighting, the proportions, and everything. So first thing we need to do, open Maya. We're gonna be doing this inside of Maya, and I'm gonna show you. This is one of those skills that a lot of people have issues with: how to match something like an image or something. So the way we're gonna match an image is I'm gonna create a new plane right here, And this plane right now represents this square that we have right here. I'm not sure if it's the proper length, but it should be the proper like size from this point, from this corner to this corner. I'm gonna go not to the front view. I'm actually gonna create a new camera, rendering, camera, panels, look to selected. And I'm just gonna scroll back. Okay, right now I'm just scrolling back. I don't wanna move it because I wanna keep it really, really straight. And I'm gonna add an image plane. I've created a new project, by the way. Look at this, 2023, next to it live. All of the YouTube stuff is gonna be now on this folder because the other one was getting a little bit cluttered. So we're gonna open this, and there we go. Now I'm gonna bring with a shift, or control, sorry, and alt. I'm just gonna start bringing my image down so that we match the perspective. This is the most important part of the whole bit. So I'm gonna try to match this square here. Now, you can see the image looks really, really dark compared to this one. So I'm gonna go up here. I'm just gonna change this to on tone map so that it's just like with no color correction. We're gonna talk about this a little bit later. Someone on the comments last week was asking about the ACES new thing, which is this thing right here. But we're gonna use the on tone map sRGB, which is just like the standard sRGB thing. There we go. So this to me tells me that we have the proper perspective. Of course, if I were to extrude this back, we should be able to find like the proper construction. So that's fine because we're not moving the floor plane. We're moving everything else. But before we do that, we do need to take into consideration the scale of the objects, right? So if I were to create a polymodeling cube and I give 180 centimeters, 50 and 50 on the scale, this is how big a normal human being is. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna bring this up to the floor level, so right around there. And that tells me if I go here to panels, look to selected, that I definitely need to like zoom out so that we can see the whole thing. Go away, malware. Now, one problem here is that the image is really close to the camera, as you can see right here. And I need to push the camera back, but push the image back as well. And it's not as simple as just grabbing the image and pushing it back. We actually need to go to the camera, go Control A so that we can go into the attribute editor, and we're gonna go to the image plane. And over here, there's this depth option. I'm just gonna give it one more zero, or probably like two more zeros, or just let's say 2,000 units. So it's 20 meters back. There we go. So now if I do panels, look to selected, there we go. I should see my character right there. I'm not seeing the plane. Where's the plane? Oh, the plane is really small, right? So let's grab the plane and make it bigger. There we go. Let's grab the camera again. Here, panels, look to selected, and there we go. So now, if I again match the plane to the object right there, I can see whether the human is small or not. Right now, he seems quite small. So I'm guesstimating that the size of the human, if he was on the very border, would be roughly about this size, okay? So I'm gonna grab the plane and I'm gonna push it back. So the border of the plane is right there with my human. Panels, look to select, there we go. Now here, I'm gonna have to scale this in so we get the proper like width of the entrance. And I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna say panels, tear off copy to create another copy of the element. And that way I can scale this from here, but I'm gonna move the pivot point to the front and scale it back until we get to the back part of the scene, which is right around there. Like you can see that that's where that corner meets. This definitely tells me that my perspective is a little bit off. So I'm just gonna modify this a little bit here. Looks a little bit better. Probably push this a little bit more. Right around there. You can see that we're again touching the image. That's not what we want. So going back here to the camera, let's go in the depth on the image plane. We're gonna say 3,000. There we go. So now we can see where this thing ends. And we can play around here. There we go. So that's as close as we can get it, I guess. That looks good. Perfect. So this is the size of the tunnel. And again, you always have to ask yourself, does this make sense? Well, if I take a look at this like panelings that we have right here, very important here. Once you're happy with the distance, go to the camera and either save a bookmark. We can just bookmark this one right here, or just lock everything. Right click and lock selected. And again, take a look at the paneling. So if I move this human to this paneling right here to the side of the border, I expect this paneling to be like probably like 2 humans wide, right? So if I duplicate this guy, that first paneling is that guy, and then second paneling, third paneling, fourth paneling, fifth paneling, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th paneling. And we're pretty much at the exit. So that tells me that we are like, it makes sense from a proportion standpoint. It makes sense how big this tunnel is right now. Okay, so now that we have this set up, we can start blocking in the rest of our scene. And the first thing I want to block in is that tunnel, of course. So to do this, there's, again, a couple of ways to do it, but I'm just going to use a big cube. So I'm going to grab a big cube right here. I'm going to move the pivot point of the cube down, and then I'm going to snap the cube to the plane right there. Something like that. Let me just make sure that we are exactly where it's supposed to be. It seems like it. Then I'm going to move the pivot point to the front of the cube. And I'm going to snap the front of the cube to this vertex right here. There we go. Because that's the entrance, right, to the photograph. This guy right here, the frame. So I know that the cube is going to be a little bit bigger, but I don't want to do that bigger cube just yet. I'm just going to push this down. That's the ceiling of the cube. And I might need to push this guys in with scale, because those will be like the walls of the cube, right around there. Let's make this a little bit bigger so we can see. There we go. So that's the wall right there. And you can see here in the picture that there's like a bevel on the cube. So I'm gonna, well, first of all, I'm gonna grab this face, bring it all the way to the back. And I'm gonna grab this edge and this edge, and we're gonna bevel until we match the proper bevel. I'm gonna grab these two faces, I'm gonna delete them. And I'm also gonna delete the face on the back, on the bottom rather, which is the, it will be the, one of the walls. I think this is a little bit too big, so I'm gonna scale it down or in a little bit more. And the floor, we might need to scale it up a little bit more, so we, again, so we don't have any like empty spaces over there. Cool. Now, I'm going to grab all of these faces. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude out like this. This guy, like this edge, we can pretty much snap here. And this edge we can snap here. We can grab these two guys and just flatten them. Same for this ones. We flatten them. And as you can see right here, this is pretty much giving us the ceiling and the walls of our tunnel, right? So we created, again, a solid sort of effect for our tunnel. We can map this with textures and stuff, but again, this is just the blocking right now. Now, from this point, I can see that the sidewalk starts. So there's a little bit of an inclined plane right here. So I'm going to press Control E. This goes out and down. Again, make sure that you analyze what we're doing and it makes sense from a just from a general like point of view. You can see here that the sidewalk is straight, and here's where we have the triangles. So actually what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back. I'm going to keep the sidewalk straight right here. Grab this guy and this guy. Well, first this guy, just extrude it to the side. And then this guy, extrude it to the other side. There we go. And now these guys right here are going to go down. It's going to create the sort of like triangular shape that we're going for. Probably about there. To really make this a triangle, I'm going to use my cut tool to triangulate those guys right there, because you never want a square to be stressed like that. As you can see, this gives us the sort of triangle look. We're going to be fixing this, don't worry. Like I can see that this guy is definitely like wider. It goes all the way to like this side. But just it's just the first blocking, right? Like this video is just the first blocking of the whole thing. So this is what we would have. Now from here, I would expect there to be something like this, right? Like how we blend into the street pretty much. And I would expect there to be a street as well. So I'm just gonna make a really big like panel here, which is gonna be my street. That's it. Now here I'm using one of the principles. You don't always use this. Sometimes when you're doing like a video game or like a scene where there's going to be a lot of different like camera takes, you want to model everything because you might have like views from different sides. But if the shot is just this shot right here, then only what the camera sees is the things that we should model, okay? Now, this guy right here, I want to mirror it to the other side. So how do we do that? Well, we know that this first plane that we created, it's an equal plane, right? It's 10 sides. So if we delete this side right here, We can just press shift, right click, and go into mirror. And we're going to say world. In this case, it's Z negative, but we're going to use the bounding box, which is the final part of the element, and hit apply. As you can see, we're going to get our sidewalk on the other side. For the street, that's really not needed. We can just like move this back so we can see a little bit of the street. And I'm actually not worried about the backplate right here because we're going to be using an HDRI to generate the main effects right there. So this is pretty much it. This would be my blocking. So I'm just going to Control S and call this Japan tunnel _ 001. Remember that whenever I work, I like to do increments and saves, because if at any point any of the files crashes or gets corrupted or something, you at least have like a couple of options. Now here, I'm actually going to jump to finish up this first video. I'm going to jump to the lighting section. Normally, when I do this sort of blockings, I like to do the light at this stage just so that I get an idea of how things are looking. And then after that, we just start like adding all of the models and stuff. We did this on, I used this technique on the first course that I taught for Nextud, which was the cinematic environment course. And we did that. We did the blocking, and then we did the lights, and then we started modeling everything. So we're going to have to jump, of course, to one of our beloved websites, Polyhaven. So we're going to jump to Polyhaven, and we're going to look to HDRIs. And in this case, normally I don't recommend using the night HDRIs because they tend to be difficult to work with. But in this case, I think we can actually get away with it. And I'm going to see if I can find like a city night. Let's do outdoors. Or let's look for city. There we go. Now, I don't need the CD to be perfect. On the image, you can see that the hue inside of this thing is very yellowish. But outside, you can see it's quite white. It's quite neutral. So pretty much any sort of image that has like a CD backplate should work. I don't want one that has a lot of like, as you can see, like this guy right here, which has a lot of shadow information, like a really harsh shadow information. I want something that's a little bit softer. Like this one right here, that one seems to be working. I think could work nicely, but this one is really calling me, the Shanghai Bund. So we're gonna download this. Now, whenever we download this files, remember that we need to place them where? On source images. Always place your stuff on the folder that you're gonna be using it. So we navigate to the project that we created right here, source images, and that's where we're going to have our Shanghai Bund. So we go back to here, and I'm going to go Arnold, lights, Skydome light. As you can see, the Skydome light is really small. The scale doesn't really matter. As you can see, this is the local scale. We can change this. Oh, not that one, sorry. This one right here. And that's going to make it bigger. It shouldn't really influence. You can even have the scale at 0 and it works just fine. So on the color, we're going to input a file texture. And the file texture is, of course, going to be the Shanghai Bund, this one right here. And what's the camera? Which camera we're going to be using? Of course, we're going to be using this camera right here. So I'm going to look through selected. Let me get a little bit more of this. This is the resolution gate. This is what we're rendering. On the image, yeah, we have a little bit more space here. It's a little bit off center. So now that we have matched things properly, I think we can unlock our camera. Or rather, you know what? I think it's going to be easier if we just create a new camera. So I'm going to go rendering, camera. I'm just going to call this shot cam. And this one is going to be the camera that I'm going to use to frame my composition. We're going to turn this thing on to try to really like frame this. It's a very like symmetrical shot what we're going for here, but I think it's going to look quite nice. This one, that's what we got. So there we go. Our shot cam is ready. Do not, and I repeat, never scale your cameras. This is a very common mistake that people make when working with rendering. Never scale your cameras, because when you scale your camera, a lot of things can go wrong. So if you want to make your locator bigger, you go to the camera shape, and down here on object display, you change the locator scale to like 100, for instance. That way it's a lot easier to select, and we should be fine. Let's save real quick. I'm just going to say Arnold and render. And let's see what we get. Okay, let's go to the shot cam, which is the shot that we want, and look at this. We get some really interesting light coming from the HDRI. There's a lot of like shadows and stuff. We're gonna tone that down a little bit because I think it's a little bit too much. Now this thing that we see right here, that's the HDRI. We don't want to see it, so we're gonna select the HDRI and we're gonna bring the camera all the way down for now. We're just gonna render. There we go. So that's what we should see. Later on, we're going to add just like a picture or like a backplane and blur it out so that there's like depth of field and stuff. Now that we have this, if I again take a look at the image, I'm going to see that there's not a lot of global light. Most of the light is coming from the tunnel itself. So I'm going to select the HDRI and I'm going to go to exposure. I'm going to bring the exposure down to something like a -4. This is one of the reasons why I like using exposure. Exposure allows you to go down on the elements right here. Let me pause this real quick. I'm going to go to my options. I'm going to change this to GPU so that we get faster renders and the encoder here on OBS does not crash. So we render again. The first time you render with GPU, it takes a little bit like longer, or it might have some issues. There we go. -4 is way too little. So let's try -2. That's a little bit better. And now what I want to do is I actually want to get rid of the like direction of the light. So I'm going to press E to rotate, and I'm going to rotate the light so that we don't have any light like hitting directly on our elements. Look at that. That's way better. We could even like reduce the intensity a little bit more. -4 is way too. Let's try -3. There we go. -3 looks really nice. Nice. So as you can see, we got a really nice, dark, moody tunnel. Now, if I were to ask you, what's the main like light source for this whole thing? You would definitely see or say that this guy is right here, right? Like this lamps, and also the bending machines on the back. We're gonna have to do something about that. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna grab a Arnold lights area light. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger, thinner, like this. We're gonna rotate this -90 degrees. We got 5 of them. You can see that the size is pretty much one panel, and they seem to be like intercalated. So on this one, we have the first panel, and on this one, we have the second panel. This one, we have the last panel, and this one, we have the second to last. We have 5 on this side, and we have 6 on this side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go here. We have 11 total. Let's make this a little bit smaller. I think that should be roughly the size. I'm just gonna Control D, and then I'm gonna Shift D. Okay, that's 11 lights. So the number was right, but that was slightly off on the size. So we're gonna have to make them a little bit smaller, probably something like that, and just like select all of them and move them a little bit so they fit inside the area. There we go. There we go. That's a little bit better. Now they are a little bit smaller than I expected, but that's fine. We can since we're just doing the blocking, this is gonna work. I'm gonna grab the 2nd, the 4th, the 6th, the 8th, and the 10th. I'm gonna move them to the other side, and we're gonna rotate them -180 degrees, so they're pointing to the other side. I'm gonna grab all of them. We're gonna push them up. Roughly about there. Well, and then we're gonna grab the 1, the 3, the 5, the 7, the 9th, and the 11th. I'm gonna move them forward and rotate them so that we can see them like that. It was pretty much 45 degrees. Let's try 45 or -45. There we go. And then we grab the pairs or the even numbers, and we rotate this. It's gonna be there we go. Now we can grab all of them and we can play with the exposures and stuff. So let's select the render. As you can see, there's 2 little light exposure here. If we do 10, might be a little too little as well. There we go, 15. Let's do 18. There we go. That's looking a little bit better. Again, I'm trying to see the intensity of the light right there. That one looks okay. As you can see, it's not really modifying all of them. That's fine. So it's 18 right here, and I am going to use color temperature. It seems to be going into like the warm colors, kind of like a yellowish hue. We can of course use yellowish hues later, or we can just go directly here to the color and go for a sort of like old yellow look. It's probably the plastic, right? The one that's causing that. But 18 seems to be the magic number here. I believe there was a light manager or something. Where is it? I don't remember. Okay, whatever. So sometimes you are allowed to change this on all of them, but it doesn't seem to be working right now. It's fine. We'll just do it manually on all of them real quick. So we'll just go 18. 18. And this should give us a very, very like approximated like look on how the whole thing is going to look. This is one of the things that I always try to tell my students when they're working on their projects. Having a good idea of how the project's going to turn out. Oh, wow. Did I make a mistake? I think I did, right? Yes. My bad. It was supposed to be an exposure, not intensity. Intensity is linear. Exposure is exponential. So 18 in exposure is not the same as 18 on intensity. Exposure works a little bit closer to what the stops do inside of a camera. That's why I usually prefer to use that one. That way you don't have to work with super big numbers. But it can get a little bit confusing because, again, it's not as intuitive as just like one more unit on one of them. Okay, there we go. So let's take a look. There we go. So now, as you can see, it might seem like this is a lot of light, but it's actually not. And the reason why it's not a lot of light is because the textures that we're going to have later on, such as the concrete up here, the sort of like plastic effect, plastic films over here, they're going to change things quite a bit, okay? The reflections and everything are going to make things look a little bit weirder. You can see that the intensity of my light is really close to what we have right here. I do want to change the colors. Now, you can see not all of the lights have that sort of like yellowish hue. Some of them are whiter. Overall, we do get this sort of like yellowish hue. So it's just a matter of going to some of them, going to the color, and we're gonna have the color ready there because we use it as one of the color pickers. So what we can do is we can just select a couple of them and give them this sort of like yellowish hue. This is also an interesting way to create some asymmetry on the composition, because otherwise things look way too similar. There we go. Look at that. Not bad, right? Not bad. Again, we're still missing the little like bending machines on the back, but this is looking quite nice. Another thing that we're missing is this red like light coming from the street lamp, from the I'm not sure how to say that in English. So right now, just to keep it simple, I'm just gonna create a sphere, which is gonna be my emitter. And I have it right around here. Arnold, lights, mesh light. And this is going to be a red color, of course. Exposure, we then do need to increase this to 18, for instance. And let's take a look. Let's stop it. Whenever you create a new geometry, such as I did there with the sphere, it's a good idea to just reset the whole render view, because whenever you render, it sends the information. If you create a new object, it just like doesn't connect properly. So I'm gonna just close that and just reopen it. Well, let's take a look at how this. Let's take a look at how this works. Actually, now that I think of it, 10 might be way too little as well. Probably gonna go for something like an 18 or like a 15 or something. So let's try 15. There we go. You can see that one right there. Let's go back to the shot cam. That's giving us the nice red hue. Bring it down a little bit. There we go. I think that matches nicely. I can see a little bit more red light over here, so maybe we can increase this to like a 17. Again, textures and the final models and everything are gonna change things slightly. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this one, guys. As you can see, we got the very basic blocking done. It took us a little bit over 20 minutes, 25 to 30 minutes. But we have everything ready. We even have like a nice like render like scene that we can start using to generate all of the important effects. So yeah, that's it, guys. I'm gonna see you back tomorrow with the next part. We're gonna be modeling some of the elements. I'm gonna be modeling other elements, like simple elements. I'm gonna model off screen just to save a little bit of time, but I'm gonna show you the whole process. Okay, let me know what you think, and if there's any questions or anything, please feel free to leave us a comment, send us a message. We'll be happy to help. Have a great day, my friends, and I'll see you back tomorrow. Bye bye.